Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here to start a new week with just some random scriptures from the Bible, some ideas that might make your life a little more pleasing and more exciting than well what it might have been. So I'm going to start out today here on Monday with two verses from the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, and verses 8 and 9. And it reads this way: God saved you by his grace when you believed. And you can't take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we've done, so that none of us can boast about it. Paul's talking about life lived walking with the Lord. Now, I know a lot of people think they can be spiritual without Jesus, without the church, without any of the traditional ways that we have talked about walking with God, and maybe they can. You can certainly go out into the woods and admire the beauty that God's made. You can take a walk along a creek and listen to the water. I did that the other day, and it's really soothing, and it's really wonderful. And you can think about how great it is to be in that spot. But you know, who made the creek? So many times we want to find God the way we want him to be. Someone once said, the problem is a man keeps making God in his image instead of the other way around. God is God, and he does things that you and I sometimes have trouble understanding. And that's part of the human life. That's part of what it means to be alive and here. We never quite know exactly what's going to happen around the corner, but we do know if we're walking with God that at least he's going to be around the corner. And so this passage talks about something really special. It's called salvation. Now, salvation is a simple word for meaning being right with God. How do you get right with God? Well, maybe you never even thought about doing that in the first place. Okay, that's fair game. I'm suggesting you might want to think about it. How do you get right with God? Well, being spiritual means that you're just out there enjoying all the wonderful spirit stuff that's floating around in the air. And that's not a bad thing. Don't misunderstand me. Being spiritual is a good idea. But how do you get to be spiritual? Well, the Bible tells us, and this passage in particular tells us, that we obtain salvation as a gift from God. He did something. You and I want to say we don't do something, but we do. We have to accept the gift. But God did the giving. Everybody doesn't accept it. I think some people don't accept it because they think it comes with strings attached. And there are strings attached. I'll admit that. They're not really the kinds of strings that a lot of people think they are. They're not strings that hinder life. They're actually strings that make life more enjoyable. And this whole passage, this whole chapter talks about being made alive with the Lord, experiencing life in its absolute fullest. Now, I know there's some adrenaline junkies out there that do all kinds of crazy things. You see them on YouTube. You see them in other little vignettes here and there. And some of them are, well, they're thrilling, I guess. Not my cup of tea, but that won't really get you anywhere. To challenge death by doing something isn't going to make you more spiritual. It's not going to make you think more about God. It's going to make you think make you think more about yourself. And look what I did. And this passage actually explains that. Let me read this part again. You're saved by grace, and you can't take credit for it because it's a gift from God. It's not a reward for the good things you have done. So none of us can boast about it. I can go on some really bizarre trips, and I can come home and I can tell about it. And people will be impressed, at least for a little while. And I can say, I did this. And you know, I've done some of those things. I didn't really mean to. I just did. It was part of where God was leading me. But people don't really believe it because they weren't there with me. But I didn't do anything to earn this trip with God. Neither did you. Now, when I say that, there is something we do. We have to accept the gift. When God gives his gift of salvation, of allowing you to be in his presence uh, and your sin forgiven, when God gives that, you have to take the gift. Otherwise, it doesn't do any good. You know, we just passed Christmas and people gave Christmas gifts. Did you take your gift and say, no, thank you, put it aside? Did you take your gift and go, oh, all right, and forgot it? Because if you did do that, then you didn't receive the gift, even though it was given. God wants you and I to understand two things. One, what he's done for us is not because we've earned it. I've lived a good enough life, he should do this for me. It's not that. And two, he wants to walk with you and me every day, hand in hand, and find the fullness of life. Not just a full life, but the fullness, the biggest, most wonderful expression of living that you could ever imagine. It's called the grace of God. And so I'll ask you today, is that part of your life? Is walking with God an active part of what you seek to do? If it isn't, okay, maybe you consider changing it. Who knows? You might find something you never even realized was available. Well, you think about it. Hope you have a really great day. Hope you have a great upcoming week. If there's some needs on your part that we can help with, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks so much for listening. Have a wonderful upcoming week. I'll be back tomorrow. Share another thought.